microphones until after Jumah, please. Thank you.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. La
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. إخوتي في الله، أخواتي الكريمات، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Today, inshallah ta'ala, I will be talking about an important topic for us Muslims, a topic that is part of our aqidah. It is a topic that is about our history, our seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and indeed the seerah of many of the prophets that came before him. But before I do that, let me first extend my gratitude to this community that opened the doors for me and allow me to share some of what I know and some of my thoughts with you. And I hope and I pray that whatever I say that is correct, that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if I make any mistake, it is from my own self, and I ask forgiveness, inshallah. Also, I would like to, on your behalf, since our beloved Imam is not here today, he's traveling, that I would like to extend a warm welcome to a delegation that came and that we met with them before Jum'ah. نريد أن نرحب بإخواننا من الذين زارونا من مصر الشقيقة وتبادلوا معنا الأفكار وتحدث أعضاء المسجد وقيادة المسجد على الكثير من البرامج التي ينتهجها هذا المسجد وكذلك سمعنا منهم وطرحت بعض الاقتراحات على سبل التعاون بين مسجدنا هذا و مسجد الأزهر وكذلك دار الإفتاء وهذا يعني فيه شرف كبير لهذه المجموعة وهذا المسجد وكذلك إن شاء الله في أمل أن تكون فعلا هناك شراكة وهناك بعض البرامج المتبادلة والتي إن شاء الله تعالى نأمل أن نستفيد منها نحن هنا في أمريكا ويستفيد كذلك من تجربة هذا المسجد. I wanted on your behalf to extend a warm welcome to a delegation that came from Egypt, and they wanted to know about this community, they wanted to know about the history of it and what programs, how they are engaging with the rest of the society, how are they fighting against Islamophobia, against the discrimination, and especially how are they dealing with presenting Islam in the true Islam, the true face of Islam, in the face of this wave of accusations and tarnishing of Islam, whether it's from within Muslims or from outside the Muslim community. And so it was a very important meeting, and I hope inshallah ta'ala that we will continue after the generous offer from their side that Al-Azhar Sharif and other institutions in Egypt are ready to help, to provide the means, the know-how, the leadership through obviously their credible voice, their huge umbrella, and through the tools. We know Al-Azhar Sharif is a prominent institution in Egypt, and whenever Al-Azhar Sharif takes a position on a certain matter, it reverberates across the Muslim world and the world itself. So we hope inshallah ta'ala through this engagement that both of us will benefit from each other, bihawlillah ta'ala, and we thank them for being here with us on your behalf. Inshallah ta'ala, the topic of this khutbah, as one of the brothers, I was talking to him before, he asked me, he said, how do you pick your topic? I said, well, alhamdulillah that I am not a regular imam. I am not an imam that gives a khutbah every week. So I don't run into the issue of shortage of topics. Because if you are a regular imam, you probably know that you have to prepare every week. You need to pick the topic that you know about, but at the same time that will be important enough for your community. So when you say something, they can listen to you. You don't want, talking, a lot of our imams, our beloved imams even, sometimes they pick a topic where you see half the congregation is nodding and the other half is looking at the watch and they just want to get out. Just make salah and get out. I hope, inshallah, I'm not one of those. If I am, I hope you forgive me. So I said the topic that I usually pick is the topic that's the topic of the day. Something that's important, that's on the minds of people. So at least if I say something that people will listen, and hopefully we can continue even engagement after the khutbah. The khutbah is a means that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to remind his people, to motivate them, to bring their attention to a certain thing, to teach them, but also it's not the only means of teaching because the time of it is very short. Also, if you notice that the only person who gets to talk during the khutbah is the imam. So there is no Q&A, there is no engagement, there is no opposition. So whatever the imam says, you have to sit there and listen. So I hope that whatever I say is beneficial to you and I. But at the same time, hopefully after the khutbah and through our means of communication between us, that we can engage more on this topic. The topic that I'm picking today is the topic of Jerusalem, Al-Quds. there is no quarrel, there is no argument that it is a topic of the day. And after the declaration by our president last week to declare Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, it is so it's a matter of us Muslims. We have to say something about this, that we do have a claim to Jerusalem as well, that Jerusalem is important to us as Muslims. And so I wanted to maybe share with you, put it in the right frame of why Jerusalem is important to us as Muslims. First of all, Al-Quds al-Sharifa, Jerusalem as a place, as a holy place, it is mentioned in the Quran several times. It is mentioned by name, but it also was mentioned as in pride. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talked about the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, He talked about other prophets, and when He ordered them to migrate, to go from one place to another, He did describe the destination, Sham or Philistine or that part of the world, as a holy place. So as I said, in reference to other prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did describe the Al-Quds and وَمَا حَوْلَهَا, or that part of the world, of the region, as holy. So let's see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Ibrahim. I keep forgetting that I'm old enough now to need my glasses every time I read. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the incident where Ibrahim was in big conflict with his community, when he challenged them about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they decided to throw him in a fire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the fire, and the story is very well known among Muslims, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the fire to be bardan wa salaman, to be cold and peaceful for him. And so he said, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَأَرَادُوا بِهِ كَيْدًا فَجَعَلْنَاهُمُ الْأَخْسَرِينَ. And they wanted mischief with him, they wanted to hurt him. But we made them the losers. فَجَعَلْنَاهُمُ الْأَخْسَرِينَ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ وَلُوطًا إِلَى الْأَرْضِ الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And we saved him and Lut, I believe his nephew at that time, to the place, or to the earth that we have blessed, and we have blessed around it. بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And we blessed it to all mankind. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ وَلُوطًا إِلَى الْأَرْضِ الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And here this is an important place to kind of stop for a second and think. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's talking about Ibrahim as an individual, and Lut also as an individual, two people that He saved from the mischief of their people. But He sent them to a blessed place. But the way He described how blessed it is for the alameen, for the all mankind. So this is one important aspect when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this place. Even though He talks about it with respect to one prophet or one nation, and He describes the earth as a blessed place, it is not just blessed place for those people only. This is a theme that we see, that it repeats itself throughout. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about the sacredness of Qudsiyat al-Quds, in another verse في سورة المائدة يقول بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا قوم ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة التي كتب الله لكم ولا ترتدوا على أدباركم فَتَنْقَلِبُوا خَاسِرِينَ. Here also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Jews, and He's ordering them to enter into this place, meaning to the place of Palestine or Al-Quds. And He goes, يَا قَوْمِ ادْخُلُوا الْأَرْضَ الْمُقَدَّسَةَ. My people, enter to this holy place, to this place that we have blessed. So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this Ard Muqaddas. He's not talking about Ibrahim, He's talking about a different nation, but He's describing the same place. He used the same language. As this is Ard Mubarakah, Ard Muqaddasa. This is a holy place. This is a blessed place. Also, and this is very common knowledge among Muslims, that during the first period of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he used to pray towards Al-Quds, not toward the Kaaba. For a period of time, the Prophet Muhammad and his Sahaba, when they used to pray, they used to take their direction into Al-Quds. So this is why it's described as أولى القبلتين وثالث الحرمين. It is the first qibla that the Muslims have taken. For us was Jerusalem. And it was also a third haramain, meaning that it is one of the sacred out of three places for Muslims that are sacred. And this is in one of the famous hadith that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned, that the three sacred masajids are three. There's three places. Also he described in another hadith, يُشَدُّ لَهُمْ الرِّحَالِ, meaning these are places that Muslims are allowed to actually plan and go and visit. It's not like any other regular place that is maybe has some significance for Muslims, but it's a holy place. It has to do with our aqeedah. What are the three holy mosques or places that that Rasulullah ﷺ is talking about here? He said, Masjidukum hadha. At that time he was in Medina, so he was talking about Masjid Muhammad, Masjid al-Medina, the Prophet's Masjid, and Al-Masjid al-Haram, which is Masjid al-Haram is Al-Haram al-Sharif in Mecca, and Al-Quds, Masjid al-Quds. So these are the three places that Rasulullah ﷺ also talked about, and he said these are places that يُشَدُّ لَهُمْ الرِّحَالِ. That means it's a place that you can plan and go and visit. There's good in that. In another hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ, he talks about the thawab, the ajr, when we pray in Mecca. And I believe he says, again I need my glasses for this. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول في حديث أنه الصلاة في مكة المكرمة في المسجد الحرام تعادل 100,000 صلاة. The prayer in one rak'ah in Masjid al-Haram in Mecca equals to 100,000 rak'ah elsewhere. Also he says, and a prayer in my mosque, meaning Masjid al-Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم في المدينة المكرمة, one rak'ah equals 1,000 rak'ahs elsewhere. And he says one rak'ah in Masjid al-Quds, in Al-Aqsa, equals 500 rak'ahs elsewhere. So this has a deep connection, a direct connection to our aqeedah. It's not just a historical place for us. It's not just a place where we can go so we can take a look at it and reminisce and talk about history and learn the lessons from it. No, this is a place that's directly connected to our aqeedah. Also the place that, we Muslims, we believe in all the prophets that came before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Many of them came through Palestine and through Al-Quds. Many of them actually have died and they are buried in that land. So this is a land that saw many prophets that came through that land, whether they were born and lived there, or whether they passed through, or whether they died there. Several of the prophets died in that land and they're buried there. So Al-Quds is not a city for the Palestinians. Al-Quds is not a city for the Arabs. Al-Quds is a place that for Muslims we have a direct attachment to it. That is attached to our aqeedah, not just to our history, not just to our legacy. Now, and the verse that is very clear where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, actually we have even a whole, we have a surah that where the whole surah starts talking about Al-Quds. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, when the Prophet Muhammad was taken from a journey from Mecca to Al-Quds, and that's the Isra, and then the Mi'raj where he was taken to the heavens. And there's a lot that we could learn from that journey alone. But this is a journey that came and it was planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala primarily to comfort the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because at that time, the Prophet and his companions, who were few in Mecca, they were going through some of the toughest times of the life of the Prophet Muhammad and his companion, and the life of the Risala, of the Ba'ath. That's the time where Khadija died. That's the time where his uncle died. That's the time when he almost hit his ceiling. No one is accepting his message anymore. Only the few that responded to him. And so he went outside and he went to the Ta'if and to other towns, and he was treated extremely badly. And so, and then there was if you call it with our own modern language, he was embargoed. The kuffar, they declared an embargo on the Muslims. They would not buy from them, they would not sell to them, they would not deal with them. They confiscated their wealth, their assets. And so this was a low point in the history of Islam, of that early generation of Muslims. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to send and to breathe life in this community through the journey of Isra wal Mi'raj, when he took the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and showed him what is laying ahead, showed him the true value of our Prophet and our message, showed him the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to break even the most common, most accepted norms of physical norms. I mean, people know that to go from Mecca to Al-Aqsa takes months to reach. But he was taken overnight. And he took a journey up to the heavens. And when he was challenged, they said, well, how do we know that you went to Al-Quds? And they would say, well, tell us what you've seen there. I mean, these are the people who know Al-Quds. Not many. There were few people in Mecca who knew Al-Quds. They knew what it looked like through their trading. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't remember much. He said, he was overwhelmed, as you could ever imagine. He met the prophets there, and Jibreel was showing him, this is this and this is that. And then when he came back from the Mi'raj, he led the prayer with the Prophet. So you could imagine that kind of scene. He wasn't paying attention, what color this door was, and how many windows are in this building. He was overwhelmed with that scene. But Jibreel at that time raised Al-Quds in front of him, and he could see it. And he started describing it to them. And he even described a rahila. There was a qafila, there was a caravan that was traveling at that time from Al-Quds back to Mecca, and he described it. And that caravan, after a few weeks, reached Mecca. And those who knew what Al-Quds, they just kept quiet. And so, obviously, the close Sahaba to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they did not need any proof. They did not need any proof. And the famous saying of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when they went to him and they said, Abu Bakr, your friend is going crazy. Not only he's telling us all about Jannah and Nar and all this stuff, now he's telling us that he was able to be transported from Mecca to Al-Quds in overnight, and he's talking nonsense. And Abu Bakr was busy, and he looked at them, and they're hoping that this is his best friend. If we can get him to peel off from the Prophet, we have a chance at stopping this man. So when they went to Abu Bakr and they told him all this, he looked at them and he said, at that time Abu Bakr didn't have a contact with the Prophet. He didn't see him yet. So he didn't hear it directly from the Prophet. So he said, if he said it, أَلَا فَإِنْ قَالَهَا فَقَدْ صَدَقَ. If he said, because you're telling me this, so I don't know if you're telling me the truth or not. Because he doesn't trust them. These are not Muslims. So he said, but if he said it, then he's truthful. Then it happened. Abu Abu Bakr didn't need any proof. He knows his friend. He knows when the Prophet Muhammad says something, it is the truth. Even if it defies all the physical, principles of the universe. He believes his friend. And so, again, back to Al-Quds. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, in this verse, He describes how He transported the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from one place to another. And this, as I said, came after that agony. And then they uplifted the community that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still with them. That His promise is coming. So after going through this, after reading all this, this is our deen. This is our aqeedah. This is our Quran. This is our seerah. This is our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when somebody comes and makes a declaration that Jerusalem is only for one people and one people only, that it is the capital of Israel, meaning excludes everybody else, then we must stand up and make a stand. This is not about politics. This is not about party line. This is not about policies. This is about our deen. This is about our aqeedah. We must make a stand. We must tell the world what Jerusalem means to us. What Jerusalem means to us. However, when the Prophet Muhammad talks about Jerusalem, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about al-ard al-muqaddasa, al-ard al-mubarakah, He never talks about it that it's only for you Muslims. He doesn't talk about it, it's only for you Ibrahim, or it's only for you Musa or Isa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it a place where everybody could find peace in it, where everybody is welcome. And it has been, for most of its history, a place where not just Muslims or Christians or Jews that coexisted, other factions existed as well. But these are the three predominant faith communities that existed, that it has a tradition, that it has history in that place, that have a claim to it. And therefore, when we Muslims stand up and say, Jerusalem is ours too, that doesn't mean we're shutting the door on others. That doesn't mean it's only for us and we're going to kick people. Well, is this my opinion? It's not my opinion. This is how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ talked about it. I mean, when he stood up and led the prayer with all the other prophets, that's a declaration that we Muslims honor all the other communities as well. When Umar radiallahu anhu took over Jerusalem, what happened? Did he kick everybody out and just said this is a capital for only Muslims? He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Actually, he showed great humbleness toward this holy place. And the patriarch, and history here has a couple of versions in it. One that says that Umar insisted that he wants the one to go and receive or take over Jerusalem by himself to show his respect toward this land. Other version says no, it's the patriarch of the Christian community who was at the time in charge, wanted to hand him the keys to someone who's a leader, who's a well-respected leader, not to a general in the army. They wanted someone with credibility, with humbleness, and they hear about Umar and they say, we do not want to give the keys to the church or to the city in general, except if Umar comes himself. And indeed he came. And when he reached, he was riding, but when he reached the outskirts of Jerusalem, he got off his donkey and he walked, because he wanted to show humbleness. And when he received the keys and the time for prayer came, and the patriarch offered him, he said, you can pray here inside the church, He said, no. I do not want to pray in this place because I'm afraid generations of Muslims who can come after me and says, this is where Umar prayed, that means this is ours, we're going to take over. So out of respect for them, to keep the integrity of that church and that a symbol for the Christian community there, he walked outside and prayed outside the church. And that's the area where you see now, where is Masjid al-Umar, and where, Masjid al-Aqsa next to it, and Qubbat al-Sakhra, and all that area. It's all in that place. And the area where he prayed was a very filthy place where the Christians used to dump a lot of garbage in it, because that's where, according to some versions of history, is because the Jews reject the message of Isa. So the Christians and the Jews at that time in Jerusalem had a very bloody and very terrible history. And Umar and Muslims, when they took over, actually reconciled this. The Jews for centuries were prevented from entering Jerusalem until the Muslims came in, and Umar was the one who intervened to the Christian leadership and says, no, the Jews have a right to be here as well. And they reached an agreement to, again, history versions differ, where they were allowed in during the day, but they had to leave at night. The reason for that is because the Jews sided with the invaders when they took over Jerusalem, with the Romans. And so the Christians had that feeling that, the Jewish community did not stand with them at that time, and so they had this issue. But Muslims had and played a role of reconciliation, wanted all three religions to be present. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, the type of Jerusalem that we claim, that is the type of capital we want to be. We wanted to be a capital of peace. We wanted to be a capital also of justice, that gives justice and gives respect to all these faith communities. We do not want a capital that excludes everybody else. We want a capital that it opens its doors to everyone, to the Jewish community, to the Christian community, to the Muslim community, and to all other communities of faith who want to come and visit and experience and worship in it and feel at peace and feel the tranquility that, after all, these religions are seeking. I mean, what is the point of us worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making these claims if it's not to seek peace and tranquility with Him and in Him? If this city of God, if this blessed city, of this holy city does not provide us that, then what kind of city are we seeking? What kind of city are we seeking? أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك على سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. In the last few minutes that I have, I wanted to touch on a couple of points. I know, as I'm explaining, that Jerusalem means a lot to us. And it's an emotional topic when we see the type of Jerusalem that it is now. It's an occupied Jerusalem, it's segregated Jerusalem. There's a lot of hate in Jerusalem. There's a lot of dhulm, there's a lot of injustices that are happening in Jerusalem. That is not the type of city that we're seeking. And anybody who doubts what I'm saying, because unfortunately the media in this country and the dominant narrative in this country does not reveal that ugliness of this holy city, a city that is suffering under this heavy burden of occupation, and people don't know. Most of the people that in the American public, they just don't know, unfortunately. And you can see this. I mean, you can engage with people over social media on this. And even well-meaning people that you know, your friends, they say things and it reveals that how ignorant they are about the situation. You know, I posted a video a couple days ago on my Facebook page. And one of my friends that I've known, he's a Republican, he's a conservative, but I've known him for a long time, from the city of New London, and he made some comments. You know, that why are the Palestinians, you know, putting their kids in harm's way? You know, why are they sending their kids to harm's way? He's talking about the videos showing how some, you know, IDF soldiers are capturing kids and they're mistreating them, beating them, putting them in a cage. And I, from his comment, he obviously doesn't know. He thinks that there is, you know, the Palestinians are here, and the Jews are here, and the army may be in between, or there's a battleground somewhere here, and he thinks that the Palestinians are sending their kids to this battleground. I said, what we're talking about here, this is where they live. This is their neighborhood. They're not sending their kids anywhere. This is the streets where their school is, where the shops where they go to is. This is where the playground is. This is where they interact with each other. And that's where they're being captured and they're being mistreated and being humiliated on a daily basis. So people don't know. And our job, at least from our perspective, is to speak and to give voice to these people who are voiceless. Obviously, you know, people who are at war there, we are not at war with anybody. We live in a very peaceful, very open society. People have their rights. That's protected by law. If we have some differences with certain parties or certain leadership or the government, that's a different story. We are not at war with anybody. We live in peace. And so when we engage with people, we engage on these terms. And so we need to be careful when we talk about Jerusalem or talk about the Palestinian issue in general. But there are some pitfalls that we Muslims, sometimes mistakes that we make. Number one is that our issue is not with the Jewish people. Our issue is not with Judaism as a faith. Our deen, our religion holds the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians, in the utmost, respect. We believe in their prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran gave them a special status, Ahlul Kitab. He didn't call them, kuffar or people that we have to fight, and He called them Ahlul Kitab. That's a title that has respect, that has dignity in it. And so our problem when we talk about the occupation of Palestine or our issues it's not with the Jewish people. Also, we see many of our Jewish brothers and sisters who are speaking on behalf of the Palestinians, who are speaking against injustices. And it's not a small minority, it's not a small community. Their number is even increasing in this country and everywhere else. We need to keep that in mind. And so, peaceful engagement, not to blanket statement and accuse everybody of whatever we see. We have to be specific. We have to use our language very carefully. The reason is because sometimes, number one, it's not true, as I said, when we talk about this issue, we don't have an issue with the Jews. And that's the reality, that's the truth. But also sometimes when we speak and we don't choose our language carefully, there are people who will use your words against what you are trying to achieve. They say, look how he talks about us. His problem is not about injustice or occupation. Look at it, look how he talks about the Jewish community. He's deep inside, this guy is anti-Semitic, he's racist. And that's the problem. And that's not the reality, that's not true. Maybe some are. And we need to speak out against that too. When you hear somebody, standing up and going at it, we have to stop them. We have to tell them you're wrong. So that's one. The second thing is, when we want to speak on an issue, and this is an advice for myself and for everybody, let's educate ourselves about the issue. Let's educate ourselves. I mean, many people sometimes, they stand up and they want to talk about Palestine, they want to yell and scream, and if you put them down and you really tell them, like, what do you know about the Palestinian issue? When was the last time you read maybe a book about the history of Palestine? Do you know anything about any of the declarations of the UN about Palestine? Well, then how, if you don't know any of this stuff, how are you going to make your case? Because, you know, whether we like it or not, the other side, they do their homework. They study. They're very well organized. They're very well funded. They use history. They use geology. They use science. They use politics. They use non-profits. They use the education institution. They use a lot of things to make their point and to advance their case. I can't blame them for that. I can accuse them of being good. What I can do is I say, if I do believe in this cause, then I must be also well organized, well informed, well funded. So I can be able to stand up and speak up. That's how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he never entered into an argument without knowing. If he doesn't know, he tells you, I don't know. He never went into a battle without getting ready. And again, I'm not asking people to go any battles. Our battle here is a peaceful battle. It's a battle of advocacy. It's a battle of winning the hearts and minds of people by speaking the truth. But speaking it by knowing it first, by knowing how to say it, and the language you use it, by making sure you have the right tools to reach them. So these things that we must keep in mind when we want to stand up and speak on this issue is do your homework, choose the right message, and make sure you have the right tools to deliver that message. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وتولنا فيمن توليت وعافنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت إنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه يا رب العالمين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأنت يا مؤذن أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. استووا اعتدلوا يرحمكم الله. Make sure you fill in the gaps. Make sure the lines are straight. I know sometimes in the middle things get a little messy, so we'll give you a minute, inshallah, to straighten that out. If you need to step back, that's okay. You know, step to the line behind you. If you have a cell phone, make sure it's on mute or off. جزاكم الله خير. صلوا. استووا اعتدلوا رحمكم الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. الله أكبر. سبحان سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Just I wanted to remind everybody that there is going to be a rally on Saturday at 12 p.m., which is tomorrow, on the south side of the White House. A lot of organizations are co-sponsoring this rally. So it's tomorrow, 12 p.m. on the south side of the White House.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. On your way out, don't forget to leave something in the charity box. Salat and Zakat. Also, we coming to the end of 2018 in the calendar year. It'll be good for you to increase your charity as much as you can and then claim that on your tax forms. Just a reminder. We want to again say welcome to our delegation from Egypt today. And we appreciate having them here with us today. They were invited by the Department of State on the International Leadership Program. And they're on a visitor's 10-day project to the United States to address U.S. family law best practices pertaining to the International Leadership Program and the implementation of the Hague Abduction Convention. So when you see them, give them the greetings and make them feel real welcome. We want to give a big thank you and appreciation to all of those who supported the Time to Be Grateful Muslim Journal's 14th annual event last weekend in Crystal City. Continue your support of the Muslim Journal. Purchase a copy, give one to someone, and make sure the delegation from Egypt, they get their copy of the Muslim Journal. And it was announced that next year's Time to Be Grateful will take place in Houston, Texas. And also it was announced that this year's Savior Day event will be February 24th in New Orleans, Louisiana. We have Jumahs from last week's, we have CDs from last week's Jumah down in the bookstore. So if you want to get yours, you can get your copy down there. The Boy Scouts, again, are meeting every Friday at 3 p.m. On Saturday, this Saturday, the share pickup will take place around 7 a.m. So those who can assist with that, be at the masjid. And also the flea market, weekly flea market taking place. There's an Arabic class every Saturday at 10 a.m. It's via conference call. And on Sunday, the Shahada 101 course takes place at 9 a.m. here at the masjid, as well as the youth weekly program in Cycle 9. And at 10 a.m., the Study al-Islam, you can call in and listen to scholars from our community on a 30-minute call-in. And there's a beginner's Arabic class every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. here in the social hall. Don't forget our sick and shut-in. And there's going to be a Walk with a Doc program in Ward 5 that takes place on the first Saturday of every month. I think Sister Saisha Neal of the Health Committee is leading that effort. And weekly computer classes every first and third Saturday of the month. And family game night is every month, I believe that the last Saturday each month from 4 to 6 p.m. And every Wednesday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. is the Imam W.D. Muhammad Tafsir study session here at Masjid Muhammad. Thank you for listening. May Allah bless you with a great day and a great week. Assalamu alaikum.